My beloved brothers and sisters, there are moments in life when everything around you says it's over. The doors close, the pain increases, and your heart becomes tired from waiting. But the believer remembers something powerful: when Allah is with you, nothing is truly impossible. The sea opened for one man, the fire became cool for another, and relief came from places nobody could imagine. So never think your problem is too big for Allah. The moment you place your trust completely in Him, miracles begin in ways the eyes cannot yet see. Joy is one of the strongest emotions a human being experiences. Every person, no matter how strong they appear on the outside, carries fears inside them. Some fear failure. Some fear losing people they love. Others fear rejection, poverty, sickness, loneliness, or uncertainty about the future. There are people who smile every day while secretly carrying anxiety in their hearts. They overthink at night, worry constantly, and feel emotionally exhausted. Sometimes life becomes so heavy that a person starts feeling trapped by their own thoughts. But this is where trust in Allah changes everything. True trust in Allah is not just words spoken by the tongue. It is a condition of the heart. It means believing that Allah is in control even when life feels out of control. It means understanding that Allah sees what we cannot see. Many people say they trust Allah, but the moment difficulty arrives, panic completely takes over them. Their fear becomes bigger than their faith. Their problems become bigger in their minds than the power of Allah. But when a believer develops real trust in Allah, something beautiful begins happening inside them. Fear slowly loses its control over the heart. This does not mean believers never feel afraid. Even the prophets experienced fear during difficult moments. Prophet Musa stood in front of the sea while an army chased him from behind. Imagine the pressure of that moment. The sea ahead, danger behind, and people around him panicking. Any ordinary person would think there was no escape left. Yet his trust in Allah remained stronger than the fear surrounding him. This is what true faith looks like. It is remaining firm even when circumstances appear impossible. Today many people are drowning in fear because they feel they must control everything themselves. They worry about every detail of tomorrow. They become consumed by thoughts about what could go wrong. Social media and modern life have made this even worse. People constantly compare their lives to others. They fear falling behind. They fear not being successful enough. They fear not being accepted. Slowly, anxiety begins taking over their peace. But Allah never created the human heart to carry the burden of controlling the entire future. That burden belongs to Him alone. When a person truly trusts Allah, they begin understanding that whatever is meant for them will never miss them, and whatever misses them was never written for them. This belief creates peace inside the soul. Suddenly the heart no longer needs to panic over every situation. The believer still works hard, still makes effort, still plans wisely, but deep inside they know the final outcome belongs to Allah. One of the greatest causes of emotional exhaustion today is that people place their trust entirely in worldly things. They trust money, people, careers, and plans more than they trust Allah. Then when those things fail, their entire world collapses. But when trust is placed in Allah first, even disappointments become easier to handle. Why? Because the believer knows Allah's wisdom is greater than human understanding. There are moments when Allah removes things from our lives that we desperately wanted. A person may lose a relationship they thought would last forever. Someone may fail at something they prayed hard for. A door they wanted badly suddenly closes. At first, the heart feels broken. The person asks, why did this happen? But years later, they often realize Allah was protecting them from pain they could not see at the time. This is why trust in Allah is so important. Human beings only see the present moment, but Allah sees the entire future. Sometimes Allah delays things because He wants the believer to grow stronger spiritually. If every dua were answered instantly, many people would only worship Allah for worldly results. But through waiting, patience develops. Through hardship, sincerity develops. Through tests, the believer learns dependence on Allah instead of dependence on creation. A person who truly trusts Allah also develops emotional strength. This is something very important. Many people today are emotionally weak because their happiness depends entirely on circumstances. If life goes well, they feel good. If something goes wrong, they completely fall apart. But trust in Allah gives stability to the heart. Even during painful moments, the believer remembers that Allah is still in control. This strength does not come overnight. It grows slowly through prayer, remembrance, patience, and reflection. Every hardship becomes an opportunity to become closer to Allah. Every disappointment becomes a reminder that this world was never meant to be perfect. The more a person knows Allah, the calmer their heart becomes. Think about how many times Allah saved situations you never even realized were dangerous. How many times did things not work out, only for you to later understand why? How many times did relief come after you thought there was no hope left? Sometimes people forget the countless blessings and protections Allah has already given them. They only focus on what they still do not have. Shaitan wants believers to live in constant fear. Fear weakens the heart. Fear creates hopelessness. Fear makes people doubt Allah's mercy, but trust in Allah gives courage. It reminds the believer that no difficulty lasts forever. It reminds them that Allah can change any situation within seconds. A person may feel completely lost today, and yet Allah can open doors tomorrow that they never imagined possible. There are people who carry silent pain every single day. They cry privately. They feel unseen. They think nobody understands what they are going through. But Allah sees every tear. Allah hears every silent prayer. And sometimes the very hardship that nearly broke a person becomes the reason they finally become close to Allah. This is why trials can actually become blessings. Without hardship, many people would never turn sincere. Why back to Allah? Comfort often makes people forget Him, but pain humbles the heart. It reminds human beings of their weakness and their need for Allah. True trust in Allah also means accepting that not everything will happen according to personal desires. Sometimes Allah gives exactly what we want. Sometimes He gives something different. Sometimes He delays. And sometimes He removes things completely. But the believer continues trusting because they know Allah's decisions are based on perfect wisdom and mercy. There is a huge difference between someone who says, "I trust Allah," while constantly panicking, and someone whose heart genuinely rests in Allah's plan. Real trust brings peace even before the solution arrives. It allows the believer to breathe through hardship without losing hope. It reminds them that Allah never abandons His servants. And perhaps this is one of the most beautiful gifts of true trust in Allah. The heart no longer feels alone against life's problems. The believer begins understanding that no matter how heavy the burden becomes, Allah is always enough. There are moments in life when a person feels completely powerless. You try everything you can, you make plans, you work hard, you ask people for help, but nothing seems to change. The pressure keeps building, the fear grows stronger, and slowly your heart becomes tired. Many people today are silently carrying burdens that nobody around them understands. Some are struggling financially and do not know how they will survive the next month. Some are emotionally broken because of betrayal or heartbreak. Others are fighting private battles with anxiety, depression, loneliness, or fear about the future. And during these moments, the mind begins convincing the person that there is no way out. This is exactly where trust in Allah becomes life-changing. The believer understands something powerful. Allah is not limited by human limitations. Human beings see obstacles, but Allah sees solutions we cannot even imagine yet. This world teaches people to depend entirely on visible means. If there is no visible path, people assume there is no hope. But the stories of the prophets teach us the opposite. Again and again, Allah created ease from situations that looked completely impossible. Think Prophet Ibrahim standing before a massive fire prepared to destroy him. The people around him thought it was over. According to human understanding, nobody survives such a situation. Fire burns. That is how the world works. But when Allah wills something, even the laws people rely on can change. The fire lost its harm because Allah commanded it to. This story is not just history. It is a reminder for every believer that Allah's power is beyond human imagination. Then think about Prophet Musa standing in front of the sea while an army approached behind him. The people around him panicked because they only saw death ahead. But Allah opened a path where there was no path. The sea itself split. Imagine witnessing something so impossible that nobody could have predicted it moments earlier. This is how Allah teaches believers never to lose hope. Today, many people are standing before their own sea. Their problems feel impossible. A person may look at their financial situation and think there is no way things will improve. Someone battling illness may feel hopeless after trying every treatment. A person whose heart is shattered may think they will never smile sincerely again. But Allah can create relief from places nobody expects. One of the biggest problems people face today is that they limit Allah's mercy according to their own understanding. If they cannot imagine the solution, they assume no solution exists. But human imagination is limited, while Allah's power has no limits. Sometimes Allah changes a person's life in one unexpected moment. One phone call changes everything. One opportunity appears suddenly. One dua gets answered in a way the person never expected. There are people who spend years crying over something, and then Allah opened doors for them so beautifully that they later realized the delay itself was mercy. If Allah gave everything instantly, people would never learn patience, growth, or dependence on Him. Sometimes Allah prepares the believer through hardship before giving them what they asked for. True trust in Allah means continuing forward even when you do not understand what Allah is doing yet. This is difficult because human beings naturally want control. They want certainty. They want immediate answers. But faith means believing even when the full picture is hidden. Imagine how many times in your own life things seem terrible, forced, but later you realize they actually protected you or guided you towards something better. At the time you could not see the wisdom, but Allah already knew. There are also moments when Allah removes people from your life for your own protection. Sometimes a person cries over a lost relationship, a missed opportunity, or a closed door, while Allah knows that very thing would have harmed them later. This is why trust in Allah is so important. Without trust, people become bitter during hardship. They become angry and hopeless. But trust allows the heart to remain calm even during confusion. And this does not mean the believer never cries or feels pain. Even the prophets experience deep sadness. Prophet Yaqub cried so much over losing his son that his eyesight was affected. But despite his grief, he never lost hope in Allah. This is what makes a believer different. Pain exists, but despair does not take over the heart completely. The modern world has made people obsessed with immediate results. Everyone wants instant success, instant healing, instant happiness. But Allah's plan often unfolds slowly. Sometimes the delay itself is shaping the believer into someone strong, or wiser and closer to Him. The problem is that people often judge their lives too early. They assume today's hardship is permanent, when in reality Allah may already be preparing tomorrow's relief. There are people listening right now who feel exhausted from waiting. They prayed for years. They hope for change. They tried to stay patient, but their hearts are becoming tired. This is where Shaitan attacks the most. He whispers thoughts like, nothing will ever change, or your prayers are not being heard. But a believer must never allow hopelessness to enter the heart completely, because hopelessness is a trap. Allah can change a situation faster than anyone can imagine. Sometimes Allah answers the dua exactly as requested. Sometimes He gives something different but better. And sometimes He protects the person from unseen harm through that very delay. Human beings only see a small part of reality. Allah sees what is hidden, what is coming, and what would have happened if things went differently. This is why trust in Allah creates peace even during uncertainty. The believer stops carrying the burden of trying to control every outcome. They continue making effort, but their heart rests in Allah's wisdom. They understand that whatever Allah chooses will ultimately contain goodness, even if they do not understand it immediately. And one of the most beautiful things about relying on Allah completely is that the heart begins becoming stronger than fear itself. A person who trusts Allah deeply may still face hardship, but they no longer feel destroyed by every storm. Their connection with Allah becomes their source of stability. People often search for strength in money, status, relationships, or worldly success. But real strength comes from knowing Allah is enough for you. When this belief enters the heart sincerely, impossible situations no longer look impossible. The believer begins understanding that Allah can open doors nobody can close, heal wounds nobody can heal, and create opportunities nobody could predict. And even when the path ahead is unclear, the heart continues moving forward because it knows Allah never abandons those who place their trust in Him sincerely.